Hello everyone. Today we'll be taking a look at Leo Tolstoy's book, Resurrection. Now this book is not quite as popular as Anna Karenina or War and Peace, but is in my opinion one of the greatest novels written in the twilight years of the 19th century. So let's take a look. So we begin the novel, basically it's set in Tsarist Russia, and it follows the life of a nobleman named Dmitry Ivanovich Nekhlyudov. And he lives like a fairly bohemian lifestyle where he has a mistress as well as a fiance, and so he's fairly promiscuous. And he's serving on a jury for a murder case where there's 3 people being tried, one of which he recognizes as a woman that he once loved. But the experience that he had at that time, the events that happened, were so horrendous that he tried to block them out of his mind because he's so ashamed of his behavior in this case. And so we as the novel carries on, we're going to learn more about what happened there. We soon learn that this woman used to work for his 2 aunts as a maid, and her name is Katyusha, is what she went by back in the day. Her full name is Katerina Mikhailovna Maslova, and now she goes by Maslova, but I'll be referring to her as Katyusha. So soon after meeting her, the 2 of them fall in love when he goes and visits his aunts. But right after that, he joins the military, and he disappears for 2 years in the military. And during that time, he lives a really debaucherous life. He's drinking, he's partying, he's sleeping with women, and all this stuff. And it really changes him for the worst. He becomes much more sinful. And when he returns 2 years later, he sees Katyusha, and he basically forces her to have sex with him. He sort of sexually assaults her and then impregnates her and just gives her some money and leaves. And unfortunately, after that, we learn that Katyusha lost the child, and she became an alcoholic, and she sold herself into prostitution, which is not totally a surprise because we learn about her horrendous childhood even before the events that happened to her. So basically, she had a sort of a crazy mother who had 5 children before Katyusha, who she baptized and then left for dead, and they all passed. And then someone finds Katyusha, becomes her godmother, she's her godmother, and she basically adopts the child. This woman takes home Katyusha, and this woman's sister is quite evil. She really doesn't feel the same. She thinks of Katyusha as just a peasant, and she's no better than a peasant, and that's why she becomes a maid. So she has these 2 influences in her life, one who thinks she's the greatest thing in the world, and another one that thinks she's nothing. So she has this dichotomy at home, and these 2 women turn out to be the aunts of Dmitry. So that's where we get this, the meeting of the 2 of them. And then after the sexual assault takes place that Nekhlyudov commits, she leaves her godmother, and she falls for another man who ends up leaving her as well. And we see this sort of spiral as the child passes away. Right soon after it's born, she's sexually assaulted, the child passes away, and then this other man leaves her, so she sort of has nothing now, and so she sells herself into prostitution and lives that way for 7 years until this trial. And when Nekhlyudov sees her in this trial, he's so overcome with guilt, he realizes that he has to try to fix this, and he's unable to stop her prosecution. She is, we find out, innocent. She had no intention to kill this man, but she is sent to Siberia anyway, and he goes to Siberia after her. There he tries to ask for her hand in marriage, to atone for his sins, and there he hears the stories of prisoners, and he realizes, or at least he begins to realize, that these people that he and all of the upper class have dehumanized are very much human, and they're treated in the most awful way, and they do not deserve this treatment that they're receiving. You also have to remember on top of that as he's seeing these people be tortured and lived in the harshest conditions, including a child who's sort of sleeping in feces in this small cell and things like that, he realizes that, you know, I am actually an awful person. I'm the person that sexually assaulted this woman that I loved, and I have lived a debaucherous lifestyle, and the child who I should have helped raise has since passed, and yet these people are the ones in prison, and because I'm an upper class citizen, I'm not receiving any punishment at all. Nekhlyadov then heads to St. Petersburg to complain about the length of Katyusha's sentencing, which seems extensive. I believe it's over 15 years or something. And while he's there, he tries to sell his estate and his land to some peasants, and he keeps lowering the price, trying to get them to take it and evenly divide it amongst themselves. But because he's an upperclassman, they sort of think of him as being suspicious, because no one's ever done this kind of thing for them, so they reject his offers. He then decides to just distribute the land among his nieces and nephews. He manages to get Katyusha transferred to a hospital, and she asks him to try to get some prisoners freed that are completely innocent, which he attempts to do and fails. And as he's returning to see her, or at least he hears that as he's sort of sorrowful that he's failed to free these prisoners, he hears also that Katyusha is beginning to fall for a man in the hospital. He then begs Katyusha to sign sort of like a plea deal so that she'll be sent into exile rather than imprisoned any longer, which she eventually agrees to, and she then leaves and goes to get on the train, which he follows her to, and he sees I believe there's thousands of these prisoners heading into exile, and they're going to find this train, and many of them at least are in such ill health that they're dying along the way to it. There's people starving, there's people sick, there's people thirsty, and it's again just weighing on the heart of Nekhlyadov. And throughout this book, you can see sort of a religious undertone taking place here, and you can see that there's this sort of idea of redemption and the importance for caring for the needy and those that society has forgotten about. And you can see Nekhlyadov sort of turning away from self-obsession, hedonism, and other sins, and beginning to sort of turn towards God. Once Katyusha aboards the train, she's put with some political prisoners, and she quickly befriends a woman named Maria, who I believe is sort of from the upper classes, but she prefers the company of peasants. She doesn't like all this nobility. She likes the sort of average woman and average man. And Katyusha also meets this man who is a prisoner because he was, I believe, a teacher, and he turned against the government, and he formed his own religion, which is sort of a bizarre religion where he doesn't believe that human reproduction is righteous and things like that. So clearly he's a bit crazy, but he quickly falls in love with Katyusha. This man learns of the past that Nekhlyadov and Katyusha have, and what Nekhlyadov did, and he tells him that he wants to marry Katyusha and that he thinks is best for her. And Nekhlyadov says that it's up to her, because he doesn't want to prevent her from anything. He wants her to live the life she wants to live. And after some trepidation, she decides to marry this man. So now Nekhlyadov is left without her, and he has to basically forgive his past and be reborn as a new man, but not just forgetting it and moving on the way he lived before. He's gonna basically receive redemption, and he's gonna live amongst those people that have been forgotten by society. Even though I've given you a summary here, it really can't capture the novel unless you read the prose that Tolstoy wrote, or at least the translation as I read. It's a wonderful read, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Even if it's quite dark, I think you'll gain something from reading it. So please like this video, subscribe to my channel, comment down below if you have any questions or thoughts on the book, or if you enjoyed it or you'd like to read it, and stay tuned for my next video. Thanks.